I think the first thing to say is how nice it is to be back reviewing bikes for the channel. This last year there's been a distinct lack of time and opportunity to review bikes for one reason or another, but I'm pleased to say we are back, and I'm really excited to be back producing content for the channel. So to kick things off, we're here in a very sunny, windy Blackpool in the northwest of England to have a look at a bike that is new for the channel and something I have very little experience with. So this is an A2 compliant 2024 Honda CBR 500R. Funnily enough, as I was preparing to do this review, someone actually commented on a previous video saying that I should actually have a look at this specific bike. So here we go, Stephen, this is for you. Stephen actually made a really great point in that comment about the industry needing younger riders to be coming forward and getting involved in the sport. It's a statement I personally agree with. I think it's fantastic for the industry, and it's clearly a statement the manufacturers agree with as well, with the wave of A2 compliant twin cylinder bikes that have appeared on the market over the recent years, all geared at being fun, desirable, affordable and forgiving for a newer rider. So let's have a little look at what Honda is bringing to the A2 table. So let's start with the obvious, how the thing looks. It's very clear where Honda took the inspiration from when designing the aesthetics for this bike. It's all very Fireblade-esque. This new 2024 variant has even inherited the winglets from the previous year's Fireblade. They aren't just for show either. Honda say they provide increased feedback and a better feel for the front end grip. To complement, we have new LED headlights up front with a wider distribution of light, new tail lights at the back, and some tweaks to the fairing over the previous year's bike. For 2024 we have two colour schemes available for this bike. There's a matte gunpowder black or the tricolour Grand Prix red like we've got here, which is what I would personally pick. For the engine, so this bike shares the same engine as the 500F and the 500X. I actually think the 500F is now called the 500 Hornet for 2024. Anyway, it's a 180 degree 471cc parallel twin, produces 47 brake horsepower. Honda say they have updated the ECU and optimised ignition timing over last year's bike to provide a smoother power delivery and better throttle response across the rev range. For the price, just under £6,700, the bike is really well equipped. It comes with a toggle for traction control or Honda selectable torque control, ABS, assisted slipper clutch, and a 5-inch full colour optically bonded TFT screen, which is compatible with Honda's Road Sync app. I'll be having a little look at that once we get out on the road shortly. The chassis, the suspension, the brakes all remain largely unchanged from the 2023 model, though this bike for 2024 is 1 kilogram lighter. That's due to lightweight wheels. We have shower forks up front with radial mounted 4-piston calipers. They're mounted on 296mm discs, and a single piston caliper at the back, that's on a 240mm disc. So just before we get this bike out on the road and see what it's all about, I just want to say a massive thank you to the North West Honda Supercentre here in Blackpool for loaning me this bike for the day. Simon in particular is an absolute gentleman, so thank you. I'm really looking forward to working with them over the coming months to have a look at a few different bikes. Okie dokie, so the bike is warmed up. I've just connected up the, I forgot what they call it now, Road Sync or whatever the app is called. Connection from phone to bike was really straightforward. The app probably needs a little bit of refinement. So you can see here, notification to show that Bluetooth is enabled. I've set the sat nav into a few destinations just to try it out more than anything, and it's all controlled here through this little intuitive soft pad on the left handlebar. Okay, so let's go and see what the little 500 is all about. So I think the first thing that really strikes you is how comfortable the thing is. I mean, in my early days I rode a lot of motocross bikes, a lot of dirt bikes, but certainly since I've been riding bikes on the road, it's only ever been sports bikes. That's all I've really owned, and obviously I've rode quite a few different types of sports bikes for reviews on this channel. And sports bikes typically, you know, the pegs are high, you're kind of hunched over, the bars are low. Certainly not the most comfortable of positions to be riding on the road for any extended amount of time. Obviously the idea is to be easily able to get tucked in on the track, but the little 500 I think is a nice compromise. You know, it's hunched over enough that you do feel that you're on a sports bike, but the bars are much higher. The pegs again much lower, so it's a much more upright seating position. No pressure at all on your wrists, which is nice. Certainly now that starting to get a little bit older, I have noticed that things that once over never used to bother me all of a sudden do, particularly pressure on wrists over any extended period of time. So just while I wait to get going a little bit here, I think one thing to point out is how fantastic does that screen look. I know some bikes I've been on, particularly on a day like today, there's quite a harsh sunlight. The TFT displays can be quite tricky to read, especially when they're in direct sunlight. So forgive me if I got something wrong here. I'll try and explain it to my understanding. So the screen is optically bonded, which basically means that between the clear cover that you're looking at here, the clear protective cover, and then the physical screen itself that's behind it, that layer in between is actually packed with a resin, and that's designed to reduce glare and provide a brighter output for the screen. So considering it's a low capacity machine, it's fairly nippy. I mean, we're only cruising along here at 50 miles an hour, but a handful of throttle now and it's, I mean, you're still going to pull your arms off. It's certainly not short on power. So forget the actual top speed of the bike. I think from memory it's somewhere around the 120 mile an hour figure, maybe 118 or somewhere in that ballpark. Plenty quick enough for the road. So apologies about any wind noise, it's stupid windy today, fortunately. Hopefully the microphone isn't picking that up too much. I was actually thinking about this morning on the way to come and pick up the bike. These lower capacity bikes that we're seeing on the market now, like the one we're on today, CBR 500, a pretty new little 500. Then you've got slightly bigger bikes, the CBR 650, Yamaha R7, the RS660. For the road at least, they really do make a lot of sense. It's loads of fun having stupid brake horsepower. I mean, the new Fireblade, the 2024 blade, hopefully I'll be reviewing that in the coming weeks, is amazing fun. It's an incredible bike, but if you're not taking that bike onto the track, you know, you're paying a lot of money for 70% of what you're never going to use. You know, it's such a fast, capable bike that, yeah, you can have a bit of fun on a twisty A road, or but all it really is a license loser. You know, you've got to be so careful with a big bike like that. Whereas these smaller capacity bikes, hopefully we'll get out onto some A roads soon. You know, they rev nice and hard. There's plenty of grunt in them to still have some fun. You get the perception that you're riding really quick when in fact maybe you're not. You know, maybe going into corners 50-60 mile an hour feels like you're doing 100 with the high revs and working the bike nice and hard. So when you're pottering into town like this, it's so easy to ride. The clutch is as light as, I mean, look at that, that's little finger light. Clicks in and out of gear super easy. Tell you one thing, a bike like this for commuting is amazing. So easy to ride in town like this. You know, we're not overheating, it's comfortable, it's quiet. It doesn't sound bad either for a little twin pot. We've just got the standard exhaust on here, which, to be honest, is probably the only thing that lets the looks of the bikes down. It's absolutely massive hanging off the side of the bike. For sure, there's plenty of aftermarket options available. Similar with a tail tidy. They've done such a nice job with the tailpiece itself of the bike, but I think the tail tidy that attaches the number plate and stuff is unnecessarily big, but that's not something with this bike specifically. I think that's just something with sports bikes in general. Yeah, tail tidy and an aftermarket pipe would clean up the rear end massively. Yeah, it's a nippy little thing. It's certainly not shy to get up to speed. One thing, if you live in a built-up town or a city, something like this just makes so much sense. Really does. Really does. So easy to ride. We're not overheating. It's just happy pottering along. And I forget exactly, but I'm sure you can get some stupid like 80 to the gallon. Which again, for commuting, for especially day-to-day use, it just really does make a lot of sense. As I mentioned a little bit before, this like class of bike wasn't really a thing when I was in the market for something a bit like this. Mid capacity, but it was more naked bikes, maybe tourers and stuff like that. I can't remember exactly what models were around back then, but my first big bike was a CBR 600, a bike actually almost 20 years later I've actually still got. It's a fantastic bike, but as you can imagine, a 18-year-old me jumping off a two-stroke RS 125 onto a four-stroke 600. I had a few close calls. The trouble is, once you get your full license and can ride what you want, at least for me, that's when you really learn how to ride a bike. I'm sure anyone that's been through that will agree with me. You get your full license, you first jump on a big bike and you generally think you're unstoppable. You quickly learn out that's not how it works. Obviously on a bigger bike, particularly like a four-stroke race 600 or even worse, a super bike, the potential to hurt yourself through user error is really, really high. Whereas something like this, yeah, it might not necessarily be as exotic as having a 1000cc super bike, but at, well, a third of the price if you're looking at getting a new model super bike, or certainly the price of a decent used super bike, it makes a lot of sense. It does really make a lot of sense. Spending time on a bike like this will really teach you a lot of skills that will be transferable as you move into a bigger bike. So having the option of traction control on there, so you can turn that on and off by this little toggle here. So obviously if you press and hold, you'll see the indicator here to come on to say that it's turned off. So obviously the bike doesn't produce stupid power, but should you go into a corner a little bit too hot, maybe the surface is a bit wet or a bit slippy, so easy on a big bike for the back end to step out on you. So easy. Again, back when I first got on a big bike, I had a few close calls. Bikes back then didn't have traction control, they didn't have any of those sort of things. You had to learn very quickly what you could and couldn't do. Whereas something like this, if you make a mistake, you're going to feel the bike correct itself, you know, you're going to feel the traction control kicking in. It's going to give you a chance to learn from those mistakes rather than end up on your backside smashing your bike up. So while I don't actually have a temperature gauge visible, I'm sure there's one if you flick through the menus. For the first time, I've been sat in this traffic now for a little while, for the first time actually I just heard the fan kicking. Look at the state of the roads as well. Again, being on a sport bike now, you'd be out of the seat getting your backside pounded. There's the soft suspension on this, just, I wouldn't say glides over them, you certainly still feel them, but much easier to live with. And I think the fact that this is Honda's entry-level sports bike, you certainly wouldn't think that sitting here now, you know, the TFT screen, the nice finishing on the top yokes, the gloss paintwork, it's a really, really well turned out bike. You can flick around these roundabouts so easy. It's really happy to get up to speed quickly as well. You're going to run out of poke once you get high up in the rev range, but again on the road you're limited to what you can do and how far up you can really go anyway. Definitely on bigger roads, I mean, you know, if you're sitting on the autobahn, for example, you're going to run out of top end torque quite quickly. I think one thing that was mentioned about the previous 500R was the cables actually coming up and blocking the brake and clutch cables here, actually coming up and blocking the screen. There was something I was actually mindful to have a look for. Certainly can't say it's an issue on this bike. They do have a little clip here that actually holds the cables in place.
not sure that's a new addition for the 2024 bike. I mean, maybe put your head right down, you know, you could argue it restricts your vision a little bit, but I don't think it does at all. It's a very, very nimble little bike.
So after spending a day with this bike, honestly, it really does make a lot of sense. As I mentioned a little bit before, when I was on the road, this was my first experience with a twin-cylinder sports bike. 20 odd years ago, back when I was first getting into bikes, I jumped from an RS 125 straight up onto a big bike, which was great, obviously. But a stepping stone bike like this honestly makes so much sense. It'll teach you good ride craft. It'll make you a more confident rider as well, and it'll all serve you well to prepare you to move on to a bigger bike in the future. It's very, very easy to get on with, it's easy to ride, it's forgiving, but yet it's still fast enough to have some fun with. If you're considering getting a 500R, from my experience with the bike today, I can wholeheartedly recommend it. The thing that's really amazed me with this bike is this is Honda's entry-level sports bike. It's very, very competitively priced, it's incredibly well equipped, and the quality that we've come to expect from Honda is fully present on this bike. There's a few extras you're probably going to want to have a look at if you're looking at getting a 500R. Honda offers a race kit. For that you're going to get a seat cover like we've got on this one here, a smoked double bubble screen, pinstriped wheels, and some tank pads. There's also an option for a 12-volt socket, various luggage options and heated grips. I can't comment on how the 500R holds up against other bikes in this class, as I've not had the opportunity to ride them yet. But the Yamaha R3, the Ninja 400, the KTM RC390 and the new Aprilia RS 457 are all priced around the same area and produce a similar amount of power. So that concludes my review of this cracking little twin pot 500R. If you made it this far, please do consider subscribing to the channel. It really is a massive help. A huge thank you again to the guys at North West Honda Supercentre. Take care, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.